All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joseph Courtney. J Money, what's up?
You went official and then unofficial. You just
Yep,
split the
just
difference.
throw them in there. What's the
All
average of
right.
J Money and Joseph
Yeah,
Courtney?
there we go.
All right, so we're into garage gym problems, answering, fixing, solving all the problems garage gym athletes have or encounter in being a garage gym athlete. So today we're talking supplements. Really, how do you pick supplements? That was kind of the question, because it is a problem. You can pick the wrong supplements. They could be unhealthy. You can waste your money. I mean, so many bad things and very little good things with supplements. Hopefully I didn't give it all away right there. But yeah, let's get into supplements, man. Maybe you have a framework, way of thinking. I don't think we'll get into any specific brands because I don't think that matters. I think it's more of what you should be looking for. So what's your, train of thought when it comes to picking supplements?
So pretty much just do protein and that's it.
There you
End
go.
of list. We started to do more research into proteins and, list of ingredients when you look at proteins of how much is in there. And then also the leucine content, which we've gone over a few times, which is fantastic, which is what you need to really check on. So look at the amino acid profile. And if they're not listed, usually you can write the company, which I recently did to a new protein brand that we started getting that is really, really good. But we have like 4 different types of protein brands. So I'm not like brand committed to anybody. So that's the main thing with protein. Outside of that, I think supplements almost need to be redefined in a way. And that's because like a supplement is something that you add on top of your normal nutrition. You supplement it with to your nutrition. So if you can't get it with your nutrition, which means you need to focus on that with your nutrition first, whether it's protein, carbs, all the micronutrients and things like that. But outside of that, the only thing that I really try and add into are magnesium. I take magnesium every day before I go to bed. Really good for you. I forget all the details of why. This is typically what happens when I find supplements. Is like I learn about them, I do research on them, I install the habit, and then I forget why, but I know I got to do it.
Like, don't worry, I trust myself. I already researched this once.
Past me knew what he was talking about, so I'm gonna go with him. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. And vitamin D, I need to get my levels checked. I don't necessarily feel a need for vitamin D as much because I'm outside all the time, especially now here. Like when in Bahrain and here, it's sunny all the time, and I'm always either going on walks or runs. Then there's like we've done a lot of podcasts on a lot of random things like tart cherry juice. I probably had tart cherry juice at least 3 times a week. I don't know if you would count. I think you could kind of count it as a supplement because I do like to add it in there on top of, electrolytes are just kind of something natural, but electrolytes with tart cherry juice for the antioxidants is great to incorporate. Fermented foods, I think, could be considered a supplement in a way because I'm not having it all the time, but I do know I like to have it spaced in my week. We usually have either like kimchi, sauerkraut, something like that in the fridge. And what else? I would like to incorporate beets more, but it's just a little bit harder with beets because it's like just to put it into it. You can't really like put it into a drink. And if not, you just have to eat it. And then, yeah, beets are just beets. What about you? And other than that, I don't really take anything. I took creatine like
half of the things you mentioned are just food.
I know exactly. And that's kind of my point is that like to me that they've just become food, but I think to other people it could be useful to maybe rethink of them as supplements so that they can be like, oh well, I'm just taking my supplements whether you need to or not. And then I enjoy tart cherry juice now. I think it's great with some like lemon lime electrolytes. It's like a cherry limeade and it's fantastic. And then anything like that is just worked into my routine and it's fine. But I think if other people need to get in a better mindset versus like, okay, I need to take all of these pills to do all these things. It's like, well, maybe I just need to eat certain things to do better things.
Yeah. I kind of agree. So supplement wise, I guess I can kind of go over what I take and how to pick. Joe mentioned protein. I do still take protein. I don't know how much longer I will. I've been trying to get off of it. I just don't. I don't fully trust any company anymore. You know, I just even the really good ones. I'm still like, I don't.
Because eventually somebody's gonna be like, well, we need to find a way to cut costs.
Right, like that always happens. And like I've watched this video. I'm not gonna name names or companies, but they were like, here's how we make our supplements. It was like a YouTube video. And so it was like the guy going through the whole process of how their supplements were made in this lab. And it was here in the US. And, you know, there's a lot of quality control and everything. And I appreciated that. But what I thought was funny was they started with a shipment of powder coming in that no one talked about. And I'm like, I get that you guys are running it through all of this. You're doing your own independent lab tests and like your quality control, and yeah, it's tested to make sure there are no like performance enhancing drugs in it or whatever. But like ultimately, you just ordered that powder from China or like wherever the hell you're getting it from, and then you're just putting your own spin on it, and now you have supplements. So even the people you think are good, like what you got to dive in a little bit further. And to be honest, you're probably not going to get the information that you want. And I don't know how good these things are for us in reality, but I am still taking a protein supplement currently. Like I said, I'm trying to get away from it. I normally, here's the only time I really take protein is like right after I work out. And it's normally only ever once a day. And I will only take it if I can't access eating protein right then, or if I'm under like a time crunch, which is still a lot of times I'm taking protein. But like if we have like sometimes I'll grill like a bunch of meat on the weekend or whatever. If I just have meat ready to eat in the fridge, I'm not taking a protein shake that day. It doesn't make sense to me. I can just eat some chicken, you know, right after I train, and it's gonna be better than any protein supplement I could possibly take. Joe mentioned grams of leucine. I don't think we said it. So 2 grams of leucine is what you're looking for in these supplements. And if you do write the company, do note that they are always going to give you most of the time how many grams of each of the amino acid per 100 grams, which may not be their serving size. So pay attention to that too, because you may be like, oh, Jerred said 2 grams of leucine. The reason 2 grams of leucine, it's the optimal dose for muscle protein synthesis that, you know, you're just getting your biggest bang for your buck at 2 grams of leucine. And so you want to look at that. But if they're like, oh, it has 3 grams of leucine, but it's per 100 grams and their serving size is 15 grams or something like that, then just pay attention, because you might not be getting as much as you want with their serving size. So that's some like food for thought to put in there. Also note that 3 eggs, I think it's almost a gram of leucine per egg or something close to it. So if you like, eggs are normally like always hard for me to say, like, you don't have time to cook a scrambled egg. Like that's you know, that's a fast thing to do, and even I can do it. Another way to get protein, kind of moving back to the food thing, my body still is not doing great with dairy. I've tried to add it back in, and it doesn't do well. But if I could consume dairy, I wouldn't take any protein supplements. You know how easy it is to get protein when you can consume dairy? Like you have a glass of milk after you finish your workout, or you have some yogurt, or like, you know, all these like great sources of protein that are easily digestible, quickly used in the body. You know, you don't need to be, you know, slamming whey protein, which I think it would be a worse version of like drinking milk, or like, you know, just having some yogurt, because they're in the same capacity, but I trust the processing a little bit more when it's in its more natural state. So that's all on protein. I don't take much else. So vitamin D, Joe mentioned, I will take vitamin D typically only in the winter months. And then as soon as the sun temperature is okay in Texas, which is honestly like 9 months out of the year, maybe 10, then I'm not taking vitamin D. So I take vitamin D for like 2 to 3 months a year when it's kind of cold. I'm not going to complain about it being cold in Texas. I won't do that.
The last 2 years, you guys have getting hit pretty hard.
Yeah, we've had some cold, like, let's call it 1 to 2 week time periods, you know, that true. Normally have like a day that's 80 in between there somewhere as well. So yeah, vitamin D, protein. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth.
I know a lot of people wonder about creatine, which you used to do on and off, but I did for a little bit, but like, I think I was, what is that, taker?
Responder?
Responder, yeah. I'm pretty sure I was, because I would gain weight, but then I just wouldn't lose it. I just never really cared. I just never really cared about the size part or the creatine stuff. So
Yeah.
I just forget it.
Yeah, so the three most proven supplements, if you're looking at stuff, because there's all this crap that you could buy and get into it. The research isn't behind most of it. Joe mentioned tart cherry juice. I would just get the juice or the concentrate,
I do
and
concentrate.
not one of these supplements like a powder form. Like just get the juice or the concentrate and have it that way. That's becoming, I mean, it's getting up there with like the top three, like in proven effectiveness. Everyone's kind of agreeing with it, but stick to the concentrate. Don't get sold on some company throwing in a microgram of tart cherry into their proprietary formula and you thinking you're going to reap all the benefits when you could just go to the store and get some concentrate like juice and get all the stuff. So top three are protein, creatine, caffeine. Those are the top three supplements, hands down, proven, safe, effective for the most part, as far as we know. Protein, we kind of talked about. Creatine, there are a lot of benefits. There are people who don't respond as well. Joe mentioned he's a responder. I'm a hyper responder. I mean, I start taking creatine, I can easily gain like 15 pounds, pack on 15 pounds. I'll become stronger, more powerful. It's like borderline steroids for me. And I don't know why, but and you're like, well, why wouldn't you just take it all the time? It's like, what's the end game? You know, like I honestly gained like 15 pounds. I'm a lot bigger. I feel stronger. I'm more powerful, but I'm just like, I don't want to take creatine for the rest of my life to try and maintain this. And so, yeah, I'll cycle on occasionally because it's fun. It's like, holy shit.
Because I like how my t-shirts fit now.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm fine with how I am. Like I'm like fluctuate between 185, 190 tops. And so to get up to like 205, you know, like for no real reason, it doesn't make sense. Maybe if I was like really going after like a specific strength goal, I like kind of where I'm at. But creatine, it is safe and effective for the most part. And it has a huge mental benefit that a lot of research is starting to circle around now as well. It's kind of like a nootropic, helps with cognitive function in the brain and everything else. So there are other reasons to take creatine. And one thing with creatine, what I think, if you're not getting enough meat in your diet, what you could do with creatine, or just say you don't eat a lot of meat. I'm not saying you're like, if you're vegan or vegetarian, that's a different story, but say you just don't eat a lot of meat. Occasional supplementation with creatine is still fine. Like you don't have to be perfect with something like creatine. You know, I think everyone knows creatine loading phases are basically BS at this point, but even the 5 grams a day, like that's the typical recommendation for servings of creatine. That's still a lot. Like if you did 5 grams every 3 days, 1 gram a day, 2 grams a day, just these micro doses of creatine, you'd still get benefit from that. Like when we're talking about on the mental side of things, some performance benefits without having to be on these like high doses of creatine. And normally the thing I'm looking at when I'm taking any supplement is what would it take for me to get this in nature? Not because I want to go get it in nature, but it makes me realize sometimes how unnatural what I'm about to do is. And when I'm about to do something that's incredibly unnatural, that scares me from a standpoint of you're wading out into the evolutionary pool of Darwinism mistakes, right? Where it's like, you really thought 20 grams of creatine was a day? That's like 9 chickens, dude. Like who eats 9 chickens a day? You know,
Yeah.
and I don't know what it actually equates to, but it's something like that. It'd probably be like 9 to 10 chicken breasts or something eaten in a day would give you 20 grams of creatine. And I'm like, where, if I can't do that in a day naturally, I probably wasn't meant to, you know? So that's another like kind of just philosophy and principle I have on supplementation is look at the unnatural side of what you're going to do. And when we're talking about 1 to 2 grams or even up to 5 grams of creatine in a day supplemented, that's really just the difference between you eating like a serving, like a large steak if you're at 5 grams, or a smaller amount of chicken or small steak or something like that. And so that's not unnatural to me. It's something I'm more willing to do. And then caffeine's the last one, biggest, most proven. I think everyone knows it. But man, we've done a lot of studies on this, Joe, and like the amounts that they normally shove down people's throats is kind of absurd. You know, hundreds and hundreds of milligrams of caffeine that they have people take to run these studies. And not really interested in doing that either, for the most part.
I think when we did the fueling series, they mentioned caffeine, and I want to say they were at like 500 milligrams or something of caffeine or
Yeah,
something
easy.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there was something else, and like even in the study, they were like, we gave people all of this, but normally most people are only at about half or less than half of what they did.
Yeah, they have like some equation where they like grams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight or something like that. So yeah, some people were like taking 600 milligrams of caffeine, not grams. And I'm just like, damn, because like your coffee cup is like a weak cup of coffee is probably 100 to 150, you know, and then Starbucks is probably like 200, 250, tops 300 if you're getting like a massive one, you know. And so I think if 600 is just like you're having two venti, like 40 ounces of coffee, you know, like that's we're getting close to a half gallon here. But you will respond. But anyway, caffeine is a fairly safe and effective if you need it. But again, going back to like, how are we ingesting that caffeine? That's not me saying pre-workout supplements with caffeine are okay and you should do it if you need it. I'm saying you can have caffeine. It's proven effective if you needed that in the morning to get going, but 100% like black tea, coffee. Is there any other way to get caffeine? Like those are the only ways that I approve of, you know, in those two methods, and do experiment with both like tea and caffeine. Some teas and caffeines have like a different form, and I'm no like chemist here, but they have different forms of caffeine, and sometimes your body will react a little bit differently. Like I will react differently to black tea. I feel a little bit more wired, but less jittery, even though it's less caffeine. It's like a different type of caffeine that it just affects me differently, you know. And so, and again, no pre-workout supplements, none of that crap. I can't believe people still take it. No energy drinks, like stay away from all those things. Basically, black tea and black coffee are the only forms of caffeine I would take.
Yeah. Pre-workout should be the first thing to go. On most people's journey, it is. After a few years of using it, a lot of people are just like, do I really need this? Or like, it's expensive, it doesn't really do much. People have to change, you have to change what you take every like 6 months because it just doesn't do much anymore. You're taking like 3 scoops and it's not enough. It's just not good.
Yeah, let me see if there's anything else. So Emily did buy recently minerals, so like trace minerals that we put in our water, and that is a supplement. We're like really weak on the supplement side. I'm sure some people tuned into this and they were like, dude, I wanted to hear about your Jack 3D stories or whatever. And I've got those stories from back in the day, but I don't take any of that crap anymore because I don't think it's healthy. But minerals, I think it's harder to get minerals these days. You know, soil depleted, and how much of that is true or marketing BS you can determine, but you can also get a blood test if you want to find out if you don't have the right amount of minerals, and that'll be a real easy way to find out if you should be supplementing with minerals. And so I just add like 10 drops of these things to 5 to 10 drops to every water bottle I have, and that's been a relatively new thing because she found out she was low on minerals through a blood test on a couple of key minerals, and so she started adding that in there. And so I just did it too. No blood test. I'm just like, whatever you're doing it, I'll do it. But yeah. So I think that's about it in the supplement world.
We did one. I know only a few people ask about it. I know we did one study on it, but CBD oil, I remember that study didn't really show to do much of anything, performance or physical wise. I think it was more mental.
Right. And that was the big like takeaway. I remember that being because like there were not a lot of physiological recovery benefits from CBD. And I think that was important to point out because if there was a fitness company that sells something that you ingest, whether that's a bubbly drink or a powder or a cream, well, I guess you don't ingest creams, but anyway, well, you can. They put CBD in it. Like that was a huge fad, and maybe it's still going on. I don't pay much attention to that stuff, but like the CBD drinks and CBD powders and CBD drops and CBD everything, all of these claims towards recovery, athletic recovery, and from the scientific literature, that's not holding a lot of weight. But I don't like to take too much of a crap on CBD because literature that talks about the psychological side, moving away from the physiological side, seems to be very helpful with anxiety, depression, PTSD, these types of things. And so it still seems like a great thing that people could use. Even marijuana, if it's legal, I'm not into that. I don't feel like I need it. But I have friends who are prescribed prescribed gummies and like all this other stuff, like, and it helps with like pain and other things that they have going on. I've known people with cancer who had it and it's been like worked miracles for stuff that they're going through. So like, yeah, I mean, it's good in a lot of ways, but when we're talking about recovery and performance, doesn't seem to be that helpful.
Yeah.
Anything else on supplements?
No.
All right, that was a good supplement chat. I think we covered a lot of ground there. More ground than I thought we would cover, that's for sure.
We've gone over so many different aside studies that aren't necessarily supplements, but like in that same realm, like tart cherry, like beets and whatnot. So that's why I was like, well, maybe reframing supplements is a way to go about it, because like there's so many other things that you could just add in that people don't naturally do.
Yeah, I mean, we just recently covered cacao, right? And that was in the same vein as tart cherry, the reason it was effective. And so get on that train somehow. I've actually been doing that. I guess I keep forgetting about things I'm taking. I have been doing it because I'm not.
Oh yeah, you're trying the straight powder in your coffee or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I don't have that mindset that you have yet, Joe. I think of like there are foods and then there are supplements. Supplements in my mind are a little bit more synthetic. Adding cacao to my coffee or whatever, it is supplementation, but I didn't think of it that way. So yeah, I've been trying that ever since we did the study. I've done it every single day. And I've noticed nothing. So how much longer I do it,
crap.
I don't. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's the thing with all supplements, right? Is like what's the expectation here? How much better are we going to be with or without it? Like I've been completely off protein before for months and been like, my muscles aren't shrinking. Like I still seem fine. How beneficial is the protein powder if you're only taking it once a day? But yeah, we'll roll. If you guys have any more problems, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can reach out using that little bubble and just say you got a problem. You want us to answer it on YouTube, and we will do that, or the podcast, wherever you're checking this out, and we will get it taken care of. So if you are on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We would really appreciate it. Like this video, leave us a comment, let us know how we're doing with solving problems for garage gym athletes out there. And if you are on the podcast listening, 5-star review, positive comment, we would really, really appreciate it. Either way, guys, thanks for watching or listening. For listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.